So welcome again to Statistics and Probability class, week number 6. Yeah, so let me share first my PowerPoint. And again, 2 modules po ang i-discuss natin ngayon, which are actually continuation of what we had last time. So natatandaan niyo last time nag-compute tayo ng mean and variance. Diba? Ano nga yung symbol na ginagamit natin if we have a population mean? Then,
Mama, ano po yun?
ano po anak yung symbol na ginagamit pagka population mean?
Wait lang, ma'am. Ang population mean po ay
The Greek letter.
yung ano ba?
Ayan, mu.
Basta yun, mama.
Ayan, the mu. MU siya in words. Ano po? So parang letter U. So that's the population mean. So please take note of that kasi iba pag sinabi nating population mean at saka ang sample mean. Diba? All data, all measures coming from the population ay tinatawag natin na ano? Lay.
Ano po yun, ma'am?
Anong tawag natin dun sa lahat ng measures coming from the population?
Ay, yung pong, ano bang tawag dun? Yung parang,
Starts with letter P. O yan, parang nagsisimula. Sabi mo yung parang. Yan.
parameter?
Yan. Okay. So that's parameters. So anything that comes from the population, yun po yung mga parameters. And those coming from the sample are the statistics. Ano po? Statistic, if it is singular, if it is plural, statistics. So kapag ka naman sample mean, so ginagamit natin yung may X bar. Okay? And then pagdating sa population variance, we have the sigma squared. Pag sa sample, we use S squared. And then SD for sample standard deviation, then sigma naman for the population standard deviation. So please take note of those symbols. Ano po? Kasi gamit na gamit natin siya. And so for today, we have the first module, which is all about finding the mean and variance of the sampling distribution of the sample mean. So last time we started with the frequency distribution. Ano yung sampling distribution na sinasabi natin? Kung natatandaan ninyo, we make use of the formula ng combination, yung n taken n, where the first n is the number of samples from the population, while the small letter n, yung kasunod, yun yung number of samples from the sample. Okay po? From the population yung isa, and then from the sample yung isa. So with this one, we only have your expected only to, of course, find the mean and the variance of the sampling distribution of the sample mean. Okay? And as I have told you last week, only learning task 3 and 4 will always be recorded. Okay? And will always be checked. The learning task 1 and 2 are for you to recall lang the previous and maybe to give you a hint of what will be discussed for the next week. And so let us begin this first module by recalling the important formula. Okay? So sabi nga natin, ano ba yung mga formula in finding the mean? So pagka population mean and sample mean, almost the same. Ano po, yung formulang ginagamit natin, symbols lang ang naiiba. Okay? So, anybody who wants to recall the formula in finding the mean, whether it be from the population or from the sample? Yes, Ara?
Mean equals summation of x over n po.
Yan. Okay. So, very simple, di ba? So, yung values nyo lang ng x, i-add nyo lang, then you have to divide that kung ilan yung ina-add ninyo na numbers. Okay? So, thank you, Ara. And the next one, how about the formula in finding the variance? Anybody who wants to raise their hand? Yes, Frias?
Ano po? Variance is equal to sigma of quantity x minus mean squared over n po.
Yan. So it's summation, ano po? Summation. Okay. So pagka sa population, n lang siya, hindi ba yung ilalim? Pero pagka sa sample, dyan sila nagkaiba, nagiging ang denominator niya is n minus 1. Ano po? So di ba yun yung binigyan kong DN last time, yung kinorek ko yung naibigay ko sa PowerPoint. Okay, so yun po yung tatandaan niyo doon. And then last one, kung meron pa, ayan, yung standard deviation coming from the variance yun, di ba? But then since this module pertains to finding the mean and the variance, so we tried to recall the two formulas for that. Okay? And so, yan na. Let's have learning task number 2. Lara? Lara, anak? Kindly read.
Mark is conducting a survey on grade 12 students of Quezon National High School. He found out that there are only few students who knew about the makers of the Philippine flag, consisting of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 SHS students from 5 sections. Suppose the sample size of 2 sections were drawn from this population without replacement. Describe the sampling distribution of the sample means.
Yan. Okay, thank you, Lara. Okay, so as you can see here, so si Mark. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 as the values of our X coming from the 5 sections. And we only need to have a sample size of 2 sections coming from the 2 sections. Okay, so with this, we will try to recall again the steps, on how to find the mean and the variance. Okay, so let's put that in a table. So yung mga given natin, ilagay natin sa table ngayon. Yan. So we have here the X values, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the first thing that we need to do before having this next 2 columns is of course to compute for the population mean. Di ba? So sabi nga kanina ni Ara, the population mean is equal to summation of X over N. So i-add lang po natin lahat ito. Meron ba akong kasunod doon? I-add lang natin yung 5 plus 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1 and that is equal to 15, di ba? So 15 divided by 5 is equal to 3. Okay. So again, So yung first step, i-compute natin yung population mean. I-add natin yon lahat ng X natin. Tapos saka natin nakuha yung next column. Yan. Pasensya po at ang nagsusulat ay grade 1 ha. Yan. Okay, divided by 5. So bakit 5? Kasi 5 yung numbers na ina-add natin. So kung 4 lang yan, edi magiging divided by 4. Okay? So pag in-add natin, that is equal to 15 yung taas divided by 5. That's why the population mean is equal to 3. So pagkatapos ninyong mahanap yung population mean, that's the time for you to find this column. Okay? So isa-isa, ginawa natin 1 minus 3, kaya siya naging negative 2. 2 minus 3 is negative 1. 3 minus 3 is 0. 4 minus 3 is 1. 5 minus 3 is 2. Okay po? Nasusundan po yon. And then, the next is of course to square. Etong nasa column na to, i-square natin siya. Okay? Pag in-square natin, yung negative 2 times negative 2 will be equal to 4. And then, yan na siya. Okay, ganyan na. Yan na. And then, we need to get the total of that. Bakit natin kailangan kunin ang total niyan? Kasi nga, sabi kanina ni si Frias ba ang nag-mention ng formula? Formula natin, we need to find the population variance. O, di ba sa population variance, yung total nito, i-divide mo lang daw ng n. So, 10 divided by, ang n natin ay 5. Therefore, the population variance is equal to 2. Okay? So, those are the first 2 steps in finding the mean and the variance. Okay po? Pag nahanap na po natin yan, Clear ko lang for our next slide. Magpo-put up na tayo ngayon nung sampling distribution natin. Pero bago tayo mag-put up nun, kailangan muna natin, ano yung kasunod na step? Gamitin yung formula na n taken n. Okay po? Ayan na. O, bakit tayo nagkaroon yan? Bakit nagkaroon ng 10 na sample mean? Because using the formula, n taken n, ano yung capital N natin? So that's 5 taken 2. Diba? So pag kinuha po ninyo yan sa inyong calculator or ginamit natin yung formula, it will be 5 factorial over 2 factorial times 3 factorial. And that will be equal to 10. Ibig sabihin, magkakaroon kayo ng 10 sample means and ito na po lahat yon. Okay? So mula dun sa numbers na 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, magkakaroon kayo ng pairing ng dalawahan lang because we are interested in getting sample means from 2 sections lang. So yung 1, pinair natin kay 2, ayan na siya. Yan. So kung bibilangin nyo, ito yan. 10 daw sila. 10 na sample means. Okay po? And then, after putting up your table for the sampling distribution, you need to find the mean. So, paano nga ba natin kinukuha ang mean? So, bawat isang sample mean, wait lang. Itong dalawang ito, i-add ninyo. 'Di ba? Magiging na siyang, okay, try ko kung, ayaw. Yan. Maging 1 plus 2, then divided by 2. Yan. So, itong dalawahan, i-divide nyo since we have only 2 numbers, kaya over 2 lang lahat sila. So, 1 plus 2 is 3, divided by 2 is 1.5. 1 plus 3 is 4, divided by 2 is 2. So, bawat isang sample mean, ganun yung gagawin, kukunin yung mean niya. Ngayon, from this mean, mag-start na tayong maglagay ng ating sampling distribution. I-construct na natin yung sampling distribution of the sample means. And that is actually our discussion, main topic for this, one of the main topics for this week. So, paano po yan? So, tingnan ninyo, ilan lang ba ang lumalabas ng mga means natin dito? We have 1.5. Mag-annotate lang ako ulit ha. Yan. So we have the 1.5 here. Isa si 1.5. Then si 2 may katulad ba? 2. And then 2.5 na ulit lang. So isang beses lang natin na isusulat. Then the 3 na ulit din lang. Okay? The 3.5 na ulit-ulit siya. Isang 4 and then isang 5. So bali, yung 10 natin na sample means magiging na lang siyang 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 na mean for the sampling distribution of the sample mean. Okay? Yun na lang ang gagamitin natin, yung 7 yun. Okay? Hindi na itong 10 ito ha. So yung magiging table na natin will look like this one. Hindi ko pala yung nalagyan ng ano. Yan, ito na po siya. So yung 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 na chinekan natin kanina, ito po yung 7 na yon, yung 7 means. Okay? And then we will try to get the frequency. Ilang beses lumabas si 1.5? Isang beses. Ilang beses lumabas si 2? Isang beses. Ilang beses lumabas si 2.5? Dalawa. Ganon din si 3, si 3.5. Then tig-isa si 4 at saka si 4.5. Pagkatapos kunin yung frequency, you need to get the probability. So since we have 10 sample means kanina, so it will be 1 out of 10. Kaya we have here 1 over 10. 1 over 10, then why is this 1 equal to 1 over 5? So, sinimplify po natin yung 2 over 5, 2 over 10 kanina, hindi ba? Ayan, ito po siya. Okay. So, same with this. Yan. And kung i-add natin, babalik tayo doon sa definition ng probability natin before, that any probability is always equal to 1. The sum of any probabilities must always be equal to 1. So, ayan po siya. Ano po? Okay? So, pagkatapos po natin yung i-put up, the next thing to find is the column for, yan, the mean times the probability of the mean. So, ito pong dalawang columns na to ha, itong 1.5 times 1/10, ang imumultiply natin to get that column, ito, at saka ito. Yan. Okay? So, pag ginawa na po natin yan, we will have these values. Yan. 1.5 times 1/10 is 0.15, 0.20, 0.5. So, minumove lang natin yung decimal. Hindi pala, 5 kasi ito. Pero with all the denominators na 10, minumove lang natin ang decimal point ng 1 place to the left to get the value. And kapag inad na po natin itong lahat na to, that is equal to 3. And anong ibig sabihin yan? 3 is, yan, the sample mean. So remember the formula, summation of the quantity mean times the probability of the mean, and that is equal to 3. So this is already our sample mean. Yan, sample mean of the sampling distribution. Okay? So, and then the next step is to compute for the variance. So ito yung formula natin ng variance. Okay? So ayan na yung value niya. Pero paano tayo nakarating sa value na yan? So kung makikita niyo sa formula, meron na tayong P of X. P of mean, the probability of the mean, ito na po yun. So meron na tayo nito. Ang wala pa natin, itong column na to. Di ba? Okay. So we need to set that up. I-minus natin. Yan. Bawat isa. Itong 1.5 kay 3. Because that is our sample mean. So 1.5 minus 3 is negative 1.5. 2 minus 3 is negative 1. 2.5 minus 3 is negative 0.5 and so on and so forth. Okay po? Pagkatapos ng column niyan, syempre, we need to square. Negative 1.5 times negative 1.5, yan, is positive 2.25, lahat sila, ini-square sa isa. And the last column, ito nang ipagmumultiply natin. Itong probability naman at saka itong square ng difference ng sample mean, yan, ipagmaminus natin yon para sa column na yon. Ayan, pag minus na natin, so 1/10 minus 2.25 is 0.2 times, 0.225. All the rest, ginawa natin. Then, we tried to get the summation. And the summation actually is our variance. Ano po? So, may tanong po doon kung paano nakuha ang bawat column. Anybody? Wala po. So that means walang tanong, naintindihan lahat. So as we tried to list down, ayan. So nasagot natin yung question number 1 dun ha, that the sample mean is equal to 3 and the variance is equal to 0.75. Okay? So these are actually the steps. Yan. So, again, yung unang step, we need to compute for the mean of the population, then compute the population variance, then determine the possible sample size by using the formula n taken n, then list all the possible samples, compute for the mean, and then compute the mean of the sampling distribution of the sample means, yung ginawa na nating pinahaba na yung table, and then compute for the variance. Ayan. So yun lang po yung mga steps na dapat ninyong tandaan on how to find the mean and the variance of the sampling distribution of the sample means. And that's the first module. Any question on the first module? Wala. Okay. So I'll continue with the next. So with the next slide, ayan na po, pinakita po natin lahat ng formula. So please take note of the formula for the sample mean. Okay? So kaya meron tayo nito, yung subscript for the sample mean. Okay? So we have this formula for the sample variance. You may use this one, or if in case we have a finite population, when we say finite, there is a distinguished number of members in the population, you can use this one. Or for a infinite population, use this. So this is the symbol for the population variance, di ba? So kapag alam niyo yung population variance, divide that by the number of samples lang, and that will be for the sample variance for infinite population. Okay? Pero kung malilito pa kayo using this formula, then you can stick with this one. Okay po? And the notation for each, ayan naman siya. Okay? Kung saan natin mga kinukuha yun sa formula natin. So may guide kayo kung paano. Okay po? And proceeding with the next module, which is all about defining sampling distribution of the sample mean for normal population. So, of course, our objective is to define the sampling distribution of the sample mean for normal population. Kaya madali lang ngayong week na to. Lahat naman ng weeks, di ba? Madali. Kaya lang madaming kailangan i-compute. Okay, let's have this activity. Knowing muna. Okay. Ako knows ko na. Okay. So we need to read and analyze the following situations. Then you will tell me whether each situation has a known or unknown population variance. Ano po? So that's the first thing that you have to do, to identify whether the population variance is present in the situation or not. And then after that, you need to write these two symbols if in case the population variance is present in the situation, or this symbol when it is absent, or if it is unknown. Okay po? Just for us to estimate the standard error of the mean. Okay. So let's have, yeah. So we have here the first situation. Let me call on Ray Bourbon. Anak, please read number 1 and try to answer if it is known or unknown, and then what symbol to be used.
Because of inclusive education, learners with disabilities are also part of the normal students. Consider a population of the PWD learners consisting of 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5. Samples of size 2 are drawn from this population.
Okay, so do you think the population variance is known in this case, in this situation?
Hindi po.
Known or unknown?
Unknown po.
Again? Unknown?
Unknown po.
O anak, sabi, consider a population of the PWD. So what does it mean? Is the variance, can we compute for the variance of this?
Unknown po pala.
Population variance. Since the given is from the population, of course, the population variance will be known. Ano po? So, our answer, Ray, is known. And if it is known, ano ang sabi? What will be the formula or the symbol to be used? Is it the sigma of the sample mean or the S of the sample mean? Ray, continue pa, may isa pang column, anak. Ayan na.
Ayan na po, lumabas na.
Lumabas na, nagkusa na kasi hindi mo sinundan ng imig. Okay, and then yung pangalawa, syempre, lumabas na rin, it's unknown. Diba? So, obviously, ito lang yung given. Yan. So, yung symbols naman, makikita ninyo. So, it's unknown, so gagamitin nating symbol. Yan na po siya. Okay? So, this one, population standard deviation is equal to 15 points. Kurt, la dyan na anak. Kurt. Kairis. Kairis. Okay, JM, you're raising your hand. O anak, in this case.
Known po, ma'am.
Okay, so it will be known, di ba? Kapag meron tayong population standard deviation, we can compute for the population variance. And of course, the symbol will be yan, the sigma. Okay? Next.
Ma'am, kay Riz po ba yung kanina po?
Oo, sana anak. Oh, you want to answer na for number 4, Kairis? Kairis.
Hello po, ma'am.
Ayan. For number 4, anak. Is it known or unknown?
Unknown po, ma'am.
Okay, so it's unknown. So the symbol to be used, this one. Okay? And lastly, ako na yung maglalagay it's known. Ayan po siya. Okay? So kapag daw po ang population variance is known, you need to use the sigma. Okay? So di ba sabi kanina, we have to define the sample mean for normal population. So napakahalaga po na alam ninyo na ma-identify if the population variance will be known from a given situation. Okay po? So, yan. So ito po yung kailangan nating tandaan. For the distribution of the sample mean for normal population, the population variance is known and it has a mean mu, and that's the symbol for the variance. The distribution of the sample mean is at least approximately normal and standard error of the mean. Yan. So ito po yung standard error of the mean formula natin, where sigma is the population standard deviation and n is the sample size. Okay? Kaya po pagka yan yung mga given, pwede nating malaman, kumbaga known po siya. The population variance is known. Okay? And to determine the probability of a certain event, we can use the Z distribution, yung C table natin, by transforming the mean of the sample data to an approximately normal variable C using the relation. Ito yon. So, kung matatandaan niyo ito yung formula natin. Ano po? And this can be applied if we have n greater than or equal to 30. Pag less than 30 po, we cannot apply this distribution. Okay? And secondly, the population variance is unknown. Kailan naman daw siya unknown? So the standard error of the mean becomes this one. So ito yung magiging formula naman natin, where S is the point estimate of sigma, which is the population standard deviation, or the sample standard deviation, and n is the sample size. So if this will be the case, and n is less than 30, then the population variance must be paired with the t distribution. Okay? And this is our formula. And the T will be discussed by next week, I think. Ano po? So next week pa lang. So answering yung question number 2 dun sa kaninang binasa natin sa knowing muna, di ba? If you can still remember yung question number 1, we need to find the mean and the variance, and we were able to do that by having the value of the mean as 3 and the population and the variance and the sample variance as 0.75. And answering question number 2, where we need to compare the population mean and then the population mean nga ba? The mean and the variance from the population. So ito po yung magiging comparison natin doon. Okay po. So tandaan po natin, for normal population, if the population variance is known, then you need to pair that with our Z distribution. Then if it is unknown, then we can use the T distribution, which will be discussed by next week. And so again, if your N or your sample size N is less than 30, we need to use the T distribution. If it is greater than or equal to 30, then we have to use the Z distribution. Okay po? Okay, so let's continue. Okay. So this one is your learning task number 3. So sabi ko nga, ayan na po siya. Ang gagawin nyo talaga, so you need to analyze each situation, and in each situation, you have to list all the given, the N, the population size, and the sample size. Then you know this symbol, di ba? The population mean and the standard deviation, the sample standard deviation. Okay? So this one is, ito po yung sample mean ha. X with a bar. Medyo nag-move lang yung bar yata niya. Okay. And then this one, ayan na po siya. Then you have to answer whether it is known, the population variance is known or unknown in each situation. Yun po yung ilalagay dito sa column na to ha. Known or unknown. And then the standard error formula, if it is the sigma of sample mean or the S of sample mean. Okay po tayo doon? Okay po. Yan. And for your learning task number 4, ibig sabihin, end na tayo ng session. Ah? Bakit ako meron ito? Baka hindi ko to na ano. Ah, ito yung last time. Sorry. So, ito po ay hindi na gagawin ha. Yan. Ito hindi ko na-erase lang. And this was included on last week's discussion if you can still remember that. Hindi ko siya na-erase. Ito dapat yon. So, your learning task number 4. Ayan. Itong 3 questions natin. Okay? So, may question po kayo doon sa ating 2 modules na diniscuss for this week. Yun lang po. Doon lang po nagtatapos ang ating discussion. Meron kayong gustong linawin?
Wala na po.
Alang na. Kayang-kaya? Ayan. And since this is the ending part, of course, kailangan natin ng pictorial for the attendance. So may I request everyone to open your cam. Thank you once again for attending our session. So I'll stop recording na.